thinking better and thinking together about life's most important issues. A place to finally meet in the middle, to think freely and reasonably about the big questions of life. This is Thinker Sensitive. Welcome to the 5th episode of our season on the question of God. Today's episode is titled Human Belief. A somewhat recent development in modern medicine and contemporary healthcare is the method or approach of holistic health. This is exemplified in TB12 sports, a method that was founded by the Hall of Fame quarterback Tom Brady, affectionately known as the GOAT, and his longtime personal trainer, Alex Guerrero. In Man in the Arena, a 2021 documentary that chronicles the life and career of the famous All-Pro quarterback, the importance of holistic health comes to the forefront as Brady begins to age, entering into his 40s. Guerrero's medical treatment not only stressed the importance of physical health, but the importance of emotional, psychological, and even spiritual health as well. Brady's method highlights that health and well-being are not simply a matter of the body, but also a matter of the mind, heart, and soul. Health is holistic, involving every single aspect of our being. In the same way, faith is holistic, involving all dimensions of the human person. When it comes to the question of God, the cognitive dimension is not everything. Faith and doubt, affirmation of God and rejection of God, are not always based on intellectual issues. Personality, background, and how a person is wired all play a huge role in both theistic and atheistic belief. Belief involves the whole person, not just the mind, but one's experience, one's heart, and one's will. In terms of experience, many theists believe that they have encountered God in their lives, claiming that they have experienced the love, grace, faithfulness, and beauty of God in a powerful and dynamic way. This has a huge influence on what they believe. On the other hand, atheists claim that they haven't experienced God, which is one of the reasons why they don't believe. Many atheists not only cite their lack of experience of God, but their profound experience of pain and suffering as well, which is often seen as evidence of God's non-existence. In terms of the heart, both atheists and theists alike are influenced by positive and negative emotions and feelings, which often stem from personal experiences. We are all influenced by what moves or grips us, or by what is attractive and appealing. And we are all repelled by what is uncomfortable or distressing or challenging or hurtful. In terms of the will, our desires often dictate our beliefs. For example, many theists believe in God because they want God to exist. And many atheists don't believe in God because they don't want God to exist. Our beliefs, more often than we'd like to admit, are a product of wish fulfillment. For instance, the theist may in part believe in God because she wants her life to have real meaning and purpose. Whereas the atheist may in part not believe in God because he doesn't want to be morally accountable and responsible to a being outside of himself. There's need for self-assessment and self-honesty here. And each of us, if we really care about the question of truth, must do this on our own. But the main point is this: belief is not just intellectual. All of these aspects of the human person, all of these dimensions of the human condition, function as criteria for personal engagement with and personal assessment of these two worldviews. The case for theism or atheism is always an accumulative case, involving an assortment of criteria and standards and factors and influences. Your faith is not just about your mind, but about your whole being. It involves the totality of the entire person: mind, experience, heart, will, and beyond. I want to conclude this podcast by applying these different standards and factors to my own life, implementing some honest self-evaluation. I'm going to keep this very brief for now. I have had many powerful, dynamic experiences with God throughout my life. To be honest, I've probably forgotten more than I remember. But these experiences have become more frequent the older I've become. I'll share some personal stories when I discuss the topic of miracles in an episode down the line. But for now, I'll say this: the experience of God, of His presence and activity in your life, is much more compelling than listening to a rational argument for God's existence. Encountering the living God in the midst of your existential history is much more transformational than encountering sound ideas about God. I did an interview with Randy Hardman, a former dorm mate of mine in seminary, a few months ago. He shared with me how his personal faith had evolved over the years. One of the things that he said that really stuck out to me was that his faith used to be in ideas, but now it's in a being. I have a similar story, and I've had a similar experience, to the point that I would probably go so far as to say that ideas and arguments ultimately pale in comparison to personal experience and encounter. My personal existential experience is coherent with and even helps to confirm the validity of my Christian worldview. The power and existence of sin and corruption, the real occurrence of temptation, a strong sense of personal responsibility and accountability, the conviction of conscience, a sense of oughtness, the experience of unconditional love, the liberation and empowerment of forgiveness, the lived truth that it is better to give than to receive, the personal satisfaction of altruism, the helper's high, the constant provision and faithfulness of God, the moral and ethical life as the blessed life, the strength and fortitude of humility, life through death, resurrection through mortification, the prosperity of obedience, meekness as exaltation, arrogance, narcissism, and self-centeredness as weakness, as both causes and effects of insecurity, obsession, and anxiety, lust and covetous as slavery and bondage, instant gratification and self-indulgence as bringing more pain than pleasure, and as ultimately unfulfilling. All of these experiences compute with and help validate my theistic and Christian worldview. There is so much lived truth and experiential truth in the Christian faith. As far as my heart goes, I personally find a theistic narrative, and especially a Christian narrative, to be far more beautiful and moving and appealing and attractive and awe-inspiring than an atheistic or non-Christian narrative. Lastly, I have mixed feelings regarding my wants and my desires. On one hand, on account of the important decisions that I've made throughout my life on the basis of my theistic worldview, my schooling, my marriage, my current residence, and my career path, I do naturally want God to exist. I want those decisions to have meaning and significance. As someone who lost his faith when he was younger, I also know by experience what the contemporary psychological research has shown: that faith in a higher power is emotionally, physically, and psychologically beneficial. When I lost my faith in God at the age of 12, I didn't just lose my faith in a higher power. I lost my sense of identity, my sense of meaning and purpose, my sense of reality and truth, my sense of direction, and my sense of value. And I wanted those things back. I wanted to believe again, and for good reason. There were just some obstacles in my way at the time. I wanted to believe, but I couldn't. On the other hand, I've also wrestled throughout my life with plenty of selfish, narcissistic, and hedonistic reasons for desiring that God doesn't exist. There are also many inconvenient truths and countercultural ideas in religion, which can certainly be a deterrent. I do believe that the non-religious path is the easier path. I do believe that the Christian path is the difficult path. For it is far easier to hate your enemy than to love your enemy, or to seek revenge against your trespasser than to forgive your trespasser. But I also believe that the Christian path is the most rewarding and fulfilling path. Something that is directly experienced in the very act of enemy love and in the very decision of forgiveness.